Yeah, I'm sure that's been one of the key features for Pedro's deck list. Choosing to play 4 whole copies must be a huge, great advantage for him, even in mirror match situations, against other GX decks, against all non-GXs. Having that much control of damage counter placement really is just a really great call on his part.
Yeah, Spell Tag also synergizes really nicely with Giratina because you can use a Shadow Impact attack to put the 4 damage counter, which would normally be a drawback, on itself, make it able to be KO'd more easily, and then that will trigger the Spell Tag.
Let's see Pedro Augusto here. He is already a regional champion a couple times over, and also has achieved some previous top 8 and top 4 placements, so he's done well here.
Yeah, very impressive. Salvador, regional champion. Camboriú, regional champion, and top 4 Fortaleza and top 8 in São Paulo. That's a pretty impressive resume, and it really shows that he's probably one of the most accomplished juniors in Brazil currently.
Back in Sao Paulo, proving why he's such a great player again, this time rocking the Malamar Giratina archetype, one that we haven't seen gone so far in the Masters, but definitely being represented to a great placement already. Let's see if he can take home the gold.
Yeah, definitely. Like with that spread focus as well, we can see there 2 of his picked featured cards, the Tapu Koko and the Shining Arceus there, just be able to spread 20 and 30 to everywhere. Gonna really help him out a lot against these Blacephalons.
Here we see Henrique. He has already achieved this season a top 8 at a regionals, as well as a League Cup win as well.
Yeah, so perhaps a little bit of the underdog going into this matchup. Not quite the same level of resume as his opponent, but still looking... I mean, he's here in the finals right now, so he will be able to add that notch at the very least of either finalist or champion after this match is over. Yeah,
seems to be somewhat of a new kid on the block, but this season already he's been tearing up tournaments, and again, such a huge finish for him today.
Could this be the turning point in his list of achievements?
It was only a matter of time.
It was only I'm not even sorry.
But you can see there, both players are getting set up now. Shuffling's done with. They're going to start drawing their opening hands so we can kick off this first finals of the day.
Yep, so both players going to draw their opening 7. Now we're not quite sure who's been able to go first. That obviously makes a big difference. Whoever goes first will be able to get out either their Naganadals or Malamars out first respectively, which can mean that it gets up getting more energy on the field more quickly, and that's just always a great advantage to have.
Yeah, certainly important for these decks, both relying on energy acceleration from the discard pile. So they're going to have similar tricks up their sleeves. They're going to have, you know, a large amount of Ultra Balls, Mysterious Treasures in both deck lists, lots of discarding supporters as well at times to get all those energies into the discard pile so they can recycle them with their own abilities.
Yeah, having a look at Pedro's prizes right here. A couple of Psychic Energy, perhaps not really ideal, but other than that, the 1 Malamar, 1 Spell Tag. He's prized things which he plays quite high numbers of copies of, so he can't be too upset about that.
Yeah, he's played very safe with his deck list. He plays 4 copies of the Malamar, lots of Psychic Energy cards, 10 in total, so he's pretty much shielded his own deck list from having a problem with prize cards just by having maximum counts of these cards.
Yeah, it's a really great mindset to have when it comes to deck building. Now, let's have a look here what Henrique ends up prizing. So he's going to lay out his prizes now, and it looks like got Fire Energy, looks like 1 Sights here, a Beast Ring, Mysterious Treasure, 1 Naganadal.
Fire Energy? Oh, no Fire Energy. Always something you should look out for, because Burst GX can take 1 prize. There is 1 in there, so it depends on the order at which he takes them, if a Burst GX is ever going to come into play here.
Yeah, we will have to see how this pans out, but we are pretty much almost ready to go here at the Juniors Finals, so let's get this kicked off. Round...
Final round.
There we go.
We are into the finals, and it looks like we're seeing a dice roll to see how things kick off here.
And it looks like Pedro's going to take his mulligan draw and will be going first.
Yep, he leads off with one of those Giratinas against Henrique's Blacephalon GX.
1 Psychic goes onto the active. There's the Shrine of Punishment straight away, just puts that down without hesitation, and looks like he's going to play a Lily after that. It's going to be only drawing 3 cards, but still a decent way to start off.
Just the 2, actually. Not able to thin many cards at all. He has drawn into an Acrobike. Oh, no, he has picked up 1 after a quick count here. Let's see if the Acrobike can give him any more good news. There is a Rescue Stretcher, and his second target is an Ultra Ball. That's going to help him get going.
That is exactly what he wants to see right now. He really can't be too happy sitting on just that Giratina in the active. He wants to get his Inkades out. He wants to evolve up into his Malamars. Oh, and interesting to note, he actually can discard a Giratina from his hand as well.
Yeah, 2 fantastic discards. It's not only the Psychic Energy that love being binned, it's also that Giratina, because he's able to use that Distortion Door later down the line. And look at this. He's picked the Marshadow as his first search, and he's going straight for the Let Loose.
Yeah, so not even worrying about the Inkay at this point right now, just wanting to really stop Henrique being able to set up as easily and going for that let loose. Both players are now forced to shuffle their hands into their decks and draw 4 cards.
Yeah, it's one of these things that you can actually prey on Blacephalon players. We've seen a few times already on stream where they can sometimes get hands clogged full of nothing but energy cards. Henrique is playing 17 of them, so this 4-card hand may end up being awkward for him. Let's see how it plays off.
Yeah, unless your name is Daniel Lazavilo, in which case, no matter what let loose you do.
Wow, he's able to get himself 1 in K and a Nest Ball here. Not bad. He is supportless, though.
Yes, he's going to have to rely on his draw for the next turn to see if he can get himself out of this. I mean, 2 NKs will, doing well for now, but he really doesn't want to be sitting on that for too much longer.
No, so he seems to be in top deck mode from his own early game let loose. And it looks like there's an Ultra Ball for Henrique's hand. He does play 2 copies of Tapu Lele GX, so he's going to be out of this funk.
Yeah, he is. And we know he's going to sort of start off his turn here. There's the 1 damage from the Shrine of Punishment. Ultra Ball will be able to find him a Tapu Lele GX and just start getting him going. 1 Fire Engine goes on to deactive. I imagine at the end of this turn, we'll see a Burst GX. We need to see, like you said, what prize he ends up going for there.
This is a beautiful Ultra Ball, getting 2 Fire Energies into his discard pile straight away. He's eyeing up that Lily to draw himself a big 7 cards once he pulls out this Tapu Lele to Wonder Tag. This is going to be a great start from him.
Absolutely. He knows exactly what he's going for here. Just pretty much the best start you could ask for. Just the Lily, of course, if you play it during turn 1, enables you to draw up to 8 instead of the usual 6. So just being able to see all the resources you need to start getting your strategy going.
So let's see what the Lily can bring him. He was going to try and find one of his stadium cards to remove this Shrine of Punishment. He doesn't want it to stay in play for too long because it does put that Blacephalon in quite easy range, already picking up an Acrobike, so his turn's not done yet. No basic Pokemon. There's a stadium card, though, the Heat Factory Prism Star. Fantastic for getting that early game setup.
Yeah, Heat Factory Prism Star allowing you to discard a Fire Engine from your hand and draw 3 cards. Just a really amazing pickup, especially considering it will, of course, get rid of that Shrine of Punishment, which, if left unchecked, will do an absolute number on Henrique's board.
Acrobikes away another Fire Energy. He's got plenty in his discard pile already. Now it's just down to him to try and find some Poipoles to get into those Naganadels later down the line.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to find any so far. Does pick up a B-String, though. That's going to be something that Pedro's going to have to be careful of. With Pedro is playing a deck where, unlike we saw yesterday with the Decidueye players able to take these 4 prize turns and really play around the B-String turns, Pedro's deck isn't really capable of doing that.
4 copies of Guzma in Henrique's hand here. It's going to be a big Burst GX if he can get that last Fire Energy, because he's actually run out of them in his own hand here. So let's see how he takes his prize. It's just a Beast Ring. So he does go down to 5, but his hand is also looking a little bit shaky now.
Yeah, it is a bit. And there's a replacement Shrine of Punishment straight away as well. So Heat Factory only really staying in play for 1 turn. Of course, yes, it does go to the Lost Zone, being a Prism Star Stadium. But then, is that just a pass?
Yeah, Spell Tag was his draw for turn. Unable to do anything else, just allow that Shrine of Punishment to get back into play here.
Unreal.
Really awkward stuff for Pedro.
Yeah, indeed. So Pedro's still in top deck mode as it currently stands. This gives a really big opening for Henrique to kind of run away with this game, and he has another counter stadium drawing the Ultra Space to get rid of the other Shrine of Punishment.
And yeah, that is the last Shrine of Punishment. That's not going to be a factor for the rest of the game now. Pedro only plays 2 copies, so Henrique has been able to overcome these quite early on. Only a couple damage counters on his GXs, so this Ultra Space is going to stay in play for pretty much the rest of the game. It's going to be great for him to keep getting out lots and lots of Naganadels.
Indeed, it will. 1 Poipole down already from that Ultra Space, debating where this energy should go. And he's looks like he's just going to put it onto the active and start really pressuring these knockouts here, although he won't be able to do that just yet with the amount of energy he has on board, so just opts for a Bursting Burn instead.
Bursting Burn could do some interesting maths here, actually. If he remains burnt, the Mind Blown could put him in range of a burn for KO to avoid a Spell Tag.
Oh, but a Lucky Heads from Pedro means that won't be the case.
There was also the option for Henrique to go for a Kiawe to end his turn instead, but he opted to put a couple damage counters on the Giratina. There's a Malamar pickup, and not much else he can do.
Wow, just really Pedro not seeing the cards he needs right now. That let loose really hurting him a lot more than it hurts Henrique. As another Fire Energy goes down onto the Blacephalon, and Henrique could just really run away with this game at this point. Yeah, you use the Ultra Space again, get another Poipole. He can just find himself a Naganadel, start using Charging Ups, and Pedro really needs to find something fast. Otherwise, this game is as good as over.
That's absolutely true, and we might see once again a patient Bursting Burn if he wants to continue to play around this Spell Tag, because he's just content to build his board here. There's no real pressure coming from Pedro. Yeah, once again, it's just the bursting burn.
And another flip, and it is a heads again, so another heal of the burn from Pedro's side, and looks like he draws a Tapu Koko for his turn.
Tapu Koko, not hugely impactful, but he is able to use his Psychic Recharge. Just one Psych Energy in his discard pile. Again, not much else he can do here. Going to have to pass it over.
Yep, so going back to Henrique's turn again, draws what looks to be another Fire Energy for his turn. He has a third Blacephalon in his hand, but he doesn't really want to play that down right now. But ideally like to get a third Poipole down so he can do even more charging ups. Does have a Guzma in his hand. He could use that to play around the spell tag as well.
Yeah, I think that's got to be what he looks for. Maybe dealing with this Malamar could be a good deal. The only real awkward thing is that the Tapu Koko is such a nice pivot that it could be helpful. And this Giratina is a chunky bench Pokemon. If he wants to just continue to build his board behind this, but I've got to think he wants to start taking prizes here, targeting down that Malamar.
Yeah, a really, really wise choice there, of course, being the only Malamar that Pedro has in play. So if this goes down, Pedro will need to find another one before he starts doing more Psychic Recharges. And there it is, just the bursting head. No, not bursting head, the Mind Blown, rather. Still also only 2 energy.
I think we didn't see a use of Ultra Space that turn, which is a little misstep from Henrique. Excited to get to take his prize, but this Blacephalon now in the active, going to take another one away from Pedro. That one Malamar now taken off the board. Finally, Pedro's got himself a means into Tapu Lele GX. He can start getting his side of the board going.
Yeah, we're able to find that Ultra Ball or Mysterious Treasure. We didn't quite see it was played off camera there, but you guys got the Tapu Lele, and that means you'd be able to use one attack to get the Lily and be able to refill his hand at long last.
Yeah, it must have been a Mysterious Treasure, I think, because there was only a Rescue Stretcher in his hand at the end of the last turn, so pretty big pickup from him. Lily for a fresh 6, and we'll see if he can start getting some attacks off. He also wants to try and redevelop Malamars and other Inkays if possible. There is one off the draw.
Yeah, indeed, there is one more. He'll be able to play that down.
Mysterious Treasure as well for another Psychic Energy. He could get himself a Malamar, another Psychic Recharge. He has the option to go for either a Flying Flip or even a Shadow Impact if he wants to this turn.
Yeah. So I imagine at this turn you probably will want to maybe go for the Flying Flip. As long as the Malamar player can do a couple of spreads with Tapu Koko, that puts things in range for them to be finished off with a combination of Shadow Impacts from Giratinas and the Spell Tag damage counter placement.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to see mulling over what to use this Mysterious Treasure on. He's just used that Acrobike, picked up a second Guzma in his hand. He's going to commit his bench fully now by putting down this last Inkay. As we mentioned, the Malamar so important to chain attacks with those Giratinas. They can get themselves back onto the board very easily as long as you're able to Malamar set them back up. There's going to be a never-ending chain of Giratina.
Yeah, I think there might be a debate from Pedro here as to what he discards off of this Mysterious Treasure. He would ideally like to discard the Psychic Energy to get it back, but then it means that you'd have to attach a double colorless and a Psychic to the active, which wouldn't really be ideal. So instead he just opts to attach the Psychic to the active and does the Flying Flip.
This Flying Flip definitely going to be important math for him, because it does, as we say, with Spell Tag ticking over throughout the game, put all these GX Pokemon in range. So although the Shrine of Punishment is gone, there's still more damage counters that can fly around this board. Yeah,
definitely a really, really great play from Pedro, being able to start making a bit of a comeback in this really not ideal start. Now, there goes a Mysterious Treasure from Pedro, and he's going to use an Ultra Space at the same time as well. So he's going to be able to grab both a Psychic Pokemon and an Ultra Beast here. And he does go for the Naganadel, and then using the Ultra Space, probably going to grab another one.
Yeah, saving himself a little bit of time, as long as you let your opponent know that this is what you're trying to do. As you can see, he was clearly announcing, that was what I wanted from the Mysterious Treasure. This is the one I want from the Ultra Space. Saves him time from shuffling, and it means he's going to be able to get some charging ups going here to refuel and get more Mind Blowns off this turn. Thanks to that Beast Energy, only having to remove 2 fire to the Lost Zone this turn is going to be really efficient for him.
Yeah, that's really the power of Beast Energy, being able to preserve the amount of energies you put into the Lost Zone. Actually just goes for the Guzma on the Tapu Lele GX.
Yeah, this is an alternate route, forcing the prize trade even further here. He can use a charging up simply to retreat, and then use a second charging up on the Naganadel to pay the cost for the Mind Blown attack.
Yeah, and absolutely a really hyper-aggressive strategy here, just trying to race for those prizes as quickly as possible, and now just making sure that he has enough energy on the board to do this. Yes, he does. So the one charging up on each Naganadel will be able to make him retreat. He can bring the Blacephalon with 2 energy back active and Mind Blown for the KO.
What I really like about this play is there's 2 Psych Energy committed to that Tapu Koko, and I don't think there's any others in his discard pile, so he's pretty much denying a Giratina from attacking next turn whilst also taking 2 prize cards.
Yeah, Pedro's going to have to work a lot harder to get both the Psychic Energy in the discard pile and get enough Malamars and everything else out to be able to do
it's a huge draw. He's got
attack.
himself a Cynthia here, so he can try and recycle his board.
Wow.
You've got to think he wants to use a Mysterious Treasure first. He needs to get some Malamars into play.
He does, but then equally, if he uses the Mysterious Treasure now, that's one less discard out you can draw to get Psychic Energy in the discard pile, so it's a bit of a catch-22 situation.
That's why it's not a routine choice. As you see Pedro mulling over his options here, he is going to opt to use one, discarding one of his Guzmas, and he's going to go ahead and grab himself a Malamar, you've got to think here.
Yeah, probably thinking to himself, even though this is one less discard out I have, it still at least gets one more Malamar guaranteed into play, and I have enough other discard cards that as long as I can see like an Ultra Ball and 2 Psychic Energy, then I'm fine.
Yeah, we are going to see him shuffling up. He's going to have to use Cynthia to recycle his hand. He might even commit this double colourless to the Giratina, because we said how important one flying flip can be for improving your maths, but it feels like the time is sort of passing for that. He needs to start being aggressive because Henrique's already taken 4 prize cards.
Yeah, exactly. And with the double colours on, it would only take 1 Psychic Energy and 1 discard out, essentially, to be able to enable the Giratina to attack.
Henrique racing so quickly through these prize cards. Pedro really on the back foot, despite being an all non-GX deck, other than that Tapu Lele that got picked off earlier on.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, Pedro doesn't opt to attach the double colored energy, does just go for the Cynthia. So now he will need to see 2 energy as well as something to discard one of them.
Going to be very awkward. It's going to be a big 6 cards here to see if he can get a Giratina attacking or if he has an alternate route. There's a couple energy cards. If you can find a discardable card here.
5.
Back into a double colorless energy.
Oh no, that's a miss.
That's really rough for him.
It is.
Second Malamar going to be helpful, but all the Psych Energy, well, there are none in the discard pile right now, so he might have to settle for once again a flying flip here.
Yeah, and this does kind of work out okay-ish for Pedro still. It does mean that now pretty much everything will be in range of Shadow Impact, but very easily, even if not factoring in stuff like Spell Tag. But it does mean that he's just not really making that prize trade favorable like his deck usually would do.
And Henrique with that excellent choice of Guzma last turn, really denying the use of a Giratina this turn. He did a really perfect choice there to be as aggressive as possible whilst also denying Pedro his setup.
Yeah, exactly. Just leaving those Psychic Energies onto the field. That's something that you always have to be mindful of when you're playing the Malamar deck, especially when you attach energies to something like Tapu Koko, because of course it does have free retreat. That's usually such an amazing trait to have, but it also means that those energies are never coming off that Tapu Koko unless it gets KO'd.
So he's having to settle for what looks to be a flying flip here. Does put more damage counters onto the board, and there's always things like Black Ray which can sweep a game all at once.
This is true.
But not quite enough on the board just yet.
In fact, one more flying flip, or maybe even he could use that Shining Arceus in his hand to do an ultimate arrow, doing 30 to everything, and then one more Black Ray after that could actually win the game in one turn for him. I can't help but think that will be at least one of the possibilities going through his mind right now.
Yeah, that's always the comeback potential, but we see Henrique, he's just on the charge. He's 2 prizes away. You got to think he's taking one more this turn with a Mind Blown. He still has 1 or 3 Fire Energy in his discard pile, so he's going to have no problem to get some more knockouts. It's even easy to potentially get an attack off with an Aganadel later down the line as well.
Yeah, and this is the problem that Pedro has. That strategy of taking 6 prizes in one turn could work if he had maybe 1 or 2 turns extra, but those are turns that he just doesn't have because Henrique is just way too close to winning at this point.
So you can see Henrique eyeing up his options, so close to winning. He doesn't want to make any errors now, overextend. He's eyeing up if he wants to Guzma anything else, and he's actually going to once again try and target down this Malamar. He's going to go back into that Naganadel. He loves this play of being able to charge up and simply retreat. And it is, quite an easy prize for him to take once again.
An easy prize for him to take, and again, denying those Psychic Energies, hitting the discard pile. Maybe there's a chance that Pedro doesn't have an energy in his hand, and, that this means that Pedro can't attack again. I think it's really, really cool play from Henrique here.
And again, it means that pretty much now that there's only 1 Malamar in play, the Black Ray is way less likely to happen. It requires a double colorless energy, a Necrozma, as well as that Psychic Recharge. And we know that there's still no Psychic Energy in his discard pile.
Yeah, exactly, because Henrique has been so clever with those Guzmas. Here's Pedro's draw for turn. It's an Acrobike. What does he see off this? It looks to be a Tapu Koko and an Onyx.
Onyx, a great tech card for other matchups. He's going to get rid of it, but this is not helpful. It looks like he's in a really bad spot at this point.
No draw for supporters in his hand either.
Just a lot of Pokemon and energy cards. Yeah. This could be the last turn Pedro has because Henrique has set up his board quite magnificently.
Yeah, I think that will be all she wrote for game one.
Let's see the third attachment to this. Giratina going to see the first shadow impact of the game. He's going to have a quick look at his discard pile. Maybe it's time to use a distortion door ability for a few more damage counters. He was actually so close to reaching a Black Ray for game. If only he had been able to attack with the Giratina once more and used a spell tag proc, he actually could have stolen this game.
Yeah, now actually, just thinking about it quickly, if Pedro takes the KO here on the Blacephalon, which he will do, 130 will take the knockout, Henrique doesn't really have a way of doing an attack this turn. I don't believe he's playing anything in his list that enables him to do a sort of an attack out of nowhere, apart from...
It's B-string time.
It's B-string time. Does he have one in his hand?
Yeah, he's got B-string in his hand.
Oh my god, like, ignore that. Ignore that then. Okay.
I think he has two, actually.
Okay, then this game's over.
Yeah, it is down to Henrique now, simply promoting his active.
Slapping down that B-string.
As long as he has enough energies in his deck, which we know he has to, playing 17 copies, you're going to see a manual attachment, B-string number 1, and you can see that's all it takes for him to get the win here, as long as he selects the B-string to go onto the active Blacephalon GX at the very least. Yeah, well, that will indeed be all she wrote. Now, Pedro is picking up his cards. There it is, the Mind Blown, takes the knockout on the Giratina, and Henrique will take game 1. Yep, fantastic demonstration there of how a Blacephalon can outpace a Malamar player. We said earlier on that there are so many outs that Pedro has in his deck. Those spell tags can get very creative. That Shrine of Punishment is always awkward, but the pure speed of Blacephalon meant that, sure, there's a lot of damage counts on my board, but I've already won the game. Yeah, exactly, and it doesn't matter if you're trading favorably or unfavorably or not, if you just prevent the opponent from being able to take any sort of prizes at all. We're going to see here, it's not, you know, game over for Pedro. We just mentioned all those cards that he's going to try and use effectively in order to make that game a lot closer in the second opportunity that he does have here, because it's going to be down to him to make those shadow impacts work. There was that turn of Flying Flip, which was fantastic for him, but he has to progress that into knockouts, and he had a little bit of a stalling turn from his own let loose there, and it really did deny his own setup. Yeah, it really, really did. It was just one of those things where normally you think, oh, you know, if we're going to let loose my opponent, then that means I'm already in a good state and they're likely to not be able to find anything. I can just take control of the game from here, except instead the opposite happened. Yeah, it was a risky play from him. He didn't actually have a... Well, he'd used his Lily for turn, so he was hoping to just refresh his hand and get access to some in-Ks of his own, which he did end up doing. It's just nothing else followed from that. So I wonder if he'll take a different approach in this second game. Yeah, maybe not take that risk with the Mars Shadow and just more focus on setting up his own board a little bit stronger before going for that. Exactly. At the same time, it could have hurt Henrique, as we have said. Lots of physical energy cards, not a huge amount of supporters in the list. A few Cynthias, there's a few Sightseers and Lilies, but... just the one Ultra Ball, man. That's all he needed to gain the Lele, Tapu Lele for 1 attack, and then, you know, Lily for 7. That's going to put you in a pretty good stead no matter which way you look at it. Yeah, that got him rolling, and Pedro's going to have the option to go first here if he wants to. Henrique, though, is such a great deck at going second as well, because he can start using that burst GX, as we saw in that first game. Went straight for it, taking that first prize and really getting the ball rolling on his end. So that's the power of one of these Blacephalon archetypes. It loves to go first, because it can evolve up into Naganadel so quickly and gain extra energy attachments per turn and start going for Mind Blown out the gate. But if you do go second, you have the option to start taking prizes straight away. Yeah, either bursting burn or burst GX. Both of them are just really effective attacks on one to just, you know, set you up a little bit further. Maybe, you know, put a little bit of spot damage onto the active before finishing off with a Mind Blown, or even just if you can, you know, luck out and get an energy from your burst GX that just puts you so far ahead. And we actually saw Henrique, he did have a couple turns of using that burst and burn, trying to put that Giratina in a little bit more range for future turns, which he didn't end up having to go through a spell tag once that game. No. But he was always having the contingency plan just in case he had to. So there goes, looks like that both players from a mulligan? No, just a mulligan from Henrique's side. So Pedro is going to have get an extra card to work with here going first, which is going to be even better for him. He's going to start putting out his prize cards. Let's see what he ends up prizing this time. We do see one of the Cocos he's playing there, spell tag as well, one Guzman and a Lily, and then it's like, oh, and he does prize his one of Tapu Lele promo. Yeah, that's a little bit awkward for him. As we see Henrique, there's again one tempting Fire Energy in his prize cards. Also a Blacephalon, 2 Fire Energies now. Potentially a Burst GX could take that and get straight onto his board if he gets lucky.
Yeah, but here we are, just both players shake hands. Here we are. Game 2 of the junior finals kicks off. Pedro going first, taking his mulligan. Let's see if he's able to find himself a better setup than he has game 1. There's an in-K straight away.
Yeah, leading a Tapu Koko. There's a tempting Marshadow once again in his hand. He does have Ultra Ball, though, as well as a Cynthia, so you got to think he's going to try and be a little safer here.
Yeah, maybe he actually just Ultra Balls away the Marshadow. He's like, no, not going to even tempt myself.
He's keeping that Onyx in his hand, which is an interesting choice. Not always the most effective attacker. It's sort of seen as a tech card for Zoroark, but at the end of the day, 120 flat damage with all these spell tags and distortion doors can still get the job done. So he's identifying that and keeping it in his hand for now.
Yeah, and not only that, there's a rescue stretcher actually. Oh, he's going to go. So I thought he might have been getting the Marshadow back to his hand, but no, he's just going to shuffle the Arceus and the Marshadow back into the deck before going for a Cynthia in his hand, it looks like.
Yep, he is going to shuffle these back in. Just a quick confirmation from the judges there as we continue to do this here. We're just going to see. We don't really know what the stoppage is for here. As of right now, we're seeing that Shining Arceus and Marshadow being played with a Rescue Stretcher to shuffle them back in. Just be a quick moment here while we figure out what's gone wrong.
Yeah, so not quite sure what's happened there either. It looks like there might be some debate as to what the intention of the Rescue Stretcher was. Because he sort of played it and then got the Marshadow, but then got the Arceus as well. Yeah, it looks like they're just going to have a sort of a quick discussion about this. We will keep you updated as soon as we know what's going on here.
Fortunately, nothing seems to be irreparable. Not much has happened yet in this game, so it feels like if there is any issues, we can get that sorted relatively stress-free here. And
it looks like that. Oh, that is indeed what's happened. No, are they going back? Yes, no, maybe. Just sort of teetering on the edge.
The judges really do have to take care here, especially with juniors, to make sure both of them are clear about what the ruling is, how to resolve it. So they're really going to take their time here and not rush anything, because they don't. The one thing they don't want to do is make anything worse.
No, and it looks like there it is. They're going back into the deck, and then the Cynthia being played straight away.
Yeah, fairly simple resolution, and we can continue on with this game. As we see, the first supporter for Pedro going to be a Cynthia. 6 is a lot safer than 4 for turn 1.
Yeah, it is, and it's not much less likely to run into the same situation he ran into game 1, where he basically let loose and didn't really do anything for about 4 or 5 turns.
And 2 in-Ks already developed onto his board. Is going to be a really nice start from him. Everything going smoothly here. It's going to be what he needs if he wants to take the second game.
Yeah, and already off of the Cynthia, he does see a Malamar and Acrobat. He's trying to Punishment and a double Colourless Energy.
It's a really nice hand.
It's a very nice hand. Oh, and Mysterious Treasure too, wow.
And a Cynthia to follow up for the following turn. It's all there.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. He's probably going to hold off playing the Shrine of Punishment for now. There is no Blacephalon on the field, so no point really playing it when it's not going to do anything, especially now that he knows Henrique is likely to have counter stadiums.
Oh, it's a dream Acrobike as well. 1 Psychic Energy straight into the discard pile as he picks up an additional Nest Ball.
Fantastic. So he can play that down, get himself a 3rd in-K if he wants to. Maybe even getting a Giratina. It's a little bit awkward with Giratina, because ideally you'd always like to discard it so you can get the effect straight away. But sometimes you just need to bench it regularly just so you actually have the attacker available.
You can see Pedro thinking about what he wants to grab from this Nest Ball. He's thinking whether or not he needs to play it at all. He's also debating on that Shrine of Punishment. The thing to note is that Henrique is not playing any of his own Marshadow or anything like a Judge in his own list. So any card that Pedro doesn't play will never get disrupted out of his hand, but Pedro is still opting to get that Shrine of Punishment into play early, maybe trying to catch some early Blacephalons or Tapu Leles if Henrique needs to play them on his first turn.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe not realizing that Henrique isn't able to disrupt Pedro's hand.
Yeah, he doesn't know the exact 60 cards. We know from up here that his hand is completely safe, but there's no way of Pedro for knowing that either.
No, there is the Nest Ball coming down as well from Pedro. It looks like he's going to grab himself a 3rd in-K, realizing that last game, he really struggled to do multiple psychic recharges, although actually it didn't really end up even mattering that much, because Henrique realized he could just Guzma around the energies getting into the discard pile. But Pedro's just going to want to make sure he could do as many psychic recharges as possible.
He's also going to have a quick look through his deck once again, making sure he knows what is prized, what attackers he has access to, because that's one of the only things about his deck list. Lots of 4-ofs in terms of trainers and energy cards and stuff like that, but he plays lots of 1-of attackers to give him as many options as possible, so making sure you know what's accessible to you is going to be important throughout the game.
Yeah, it certainly is, and after that, just a pass on Pedro, and it's going to be on to Henrique. How does he approach his first turn? His hand looks pretty decent. He has got a Sightseer to work with, an Acrobike, lots of draw cards, should be able to see a lot of different options, although that looks like an awkward Acrobike to start with.
There's a Choice Band, which seems to be a pretty easy discard in my book. He didn't see... Well, there was that one Tapu Lele that could be useful, but yeah, he's eventually going to choose that Choice Band to get into the discard pile as he benches that Poipole. His start's been pretty good here. He's got a Sightseer. Could be reducing... getting rid of 3 cards here. 1 Naganadel and 2 Fire Energies out the gate as he's able to draw into 3 fresh cards of his own. Yeah,
it does find himself a B-string. Obviously, won't be...
Ooh, it's awkward.
Won't be able to do much now, but... actually... Henrique's hand has no draw supporters now currently.
Yeah, nothing going for him. He can attach to his Poipole and use the Eye Opener attack to look through his own prize cards.
Yes, he can. So he's going to be able to sort of look at those and sort of see what's going on. Now, an important ruling clarification actually, and this came up on the stream yesterday about Poipole, is that it lets you look at your face-down prize cards, but you have to put them back in the same order. So although you can, you look at them and you don't need to, shuffle them afterwards. You have to keep them in the same order they were there, which is why there was the issue yesterday when they were all shuffled up.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
So we do see that attachment to Poipole. One good thing for Henrique is that he did discard that Naganadel quite happily, and that's because he was holding onto a rescue stretcher. So next turn he could start evolving up, getting some charging up going, and even start threatening this Tapu Koko.
Yeah, indeed he could. The Malamar going down, another one going down as well. And with that double colours and the active Flying Flip is going to start putting in some work, doing 20 to each of these Poipoles.
2 Malamars turn 2, another Inkay on the board, and a big Cynthia. This is a much better start from Pedro.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's in very stark contrast to the first game. If he's able to find himself some more attackers off of this Cynthia as well, he can put himself in even better shape.
Yeah, because the Flying Flip isn't too impactful right now. Normally when you're using Flying Flip in this deck, you're trying to set up GX Pokemon for knockouts. So it's much more efficient for you to start looking to find things like that Giratina to start taking single prize cards.
Yeah, exactly. And off of that, it does look like he drew some attackers, but really not attackers he'd like to bench in an ideal situation right now. Like Necrozma obviously is a really great attacker, can do one-shots on 2 Blacephalon GXs, but you don't really want to be using a Necrozma GX to KO a Poipole.
So he is going to have to suffice with a 20 damage to the active and the bench with Flying Flip here. And we see Henrique picks up an Ultra Ball, so he's got to have a big sigh of relief as he's gotten his way back into a Tapu Lele to start drawing some more cards again.
Yeah, definitely. And being bailed out a little bit there, realizing as well, that debating what to discard with the Ultra Ball. Going to play the Rescue Stretcher first, grab himself that Naganadel he discarded off the Sightseer earlier. Going to just evolve the active straight away. And he actually could attack with Turning Point here if he wanted to. Just do one charging up and then attach to the active manually. And it looks like that might be what he's going to go for here.
Yeah, he's got the charging up. He can Ultra Ball away a few pieces. Again, the Choice Band seems to be the easiest discard. He's just thinking whether it's better or worse to get rid of a B-String or a Guzma. Both important, trying to get around Spell Tag. That's why you see Henrique identifying that that's going to be the most important keep from him. And he can use Tapu Lele to Wonder Tag himself into a fresh 6 now.
Yeah, just be able to grab himself the Cynthia for that. And with that, be able to, as long as he can find 1 Fire Energy, which, given we know how many Fire Energies this deck plays, it seems likely it's probably going to work out well for him.
And the ideal here is if he finds his Beast Energy. He can then knock out this Tapu Koko. And also looking to, again, replace that Shrine of Punishment is always something that's on his mind now that Tapu Lele's hit the field.
Yeah, that would be the ideal draw for him. Of course, not quite as ideal as getting the Beast Energy onto the Blacephalon. That puts the things in range a lot easier and means you don't have to Mind Blown as many energy into the Lost Zone. But getting the one-hit knockout on the Tapu Koko here could still be pretty decent.
He's grabbed himself at least a basic energy. That's good for him. Second Naganadel hits the field. He's got Ultra Ball as well if he wants to discard anything else. There's just 2 Ultra Balls and a Naganadel that he can get rid of here if he wants to keep developing.
Yeah, and maybe he might be thinking about potentially getting the Blacephalon out and actually doing his manual attachment to that and going for the Burst GX. He's looked at his prize cards, so he knows where the Fire Energies are, so that'll be a pretty much guaranteed hit for him.
That could be an option, thinking that 80 damage isn't really worth anything on this Tapu Koko, as he could simply knock it out in one shot later. That's what we're going to be seeing here, Nick. He's going to pay retreat. He can use charging up again on his second Naganadel if he wants to as well.
Yeah.
And he can end his turn taking 1 prize, and he knows the location of those Fire Energies, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Fantastic play here from Henrique. Burst GX, hitting the Fire Energy and attaching it to the Blacephalon.
And that's why you see some of these players opting to use the Eye Opener, the new Poipole, as opposed to the older Poipole that we saw in the same expansion as the Naganadel GX. Even though Poison can do some good math fixing, that Eye Opener synergizes so well with Burst GX.
Yeah, it really does, and being proof in the pudding right here, as now we go back to Pedro's turn. He could go for another Flying Flip, sort of at the worst here. He would put in a little bit more work than it did last turn, given that there's now, a Blacephalon and a Tapu Lele that can take the Flying Flip damage as well. But Pedro has just gone straight away for that Necrozma GX, put it onto the bench, got an energy on it. He's going to be digging for that KO on the Blacephalon.
Yep, he's drawn into Acrobike Energy and a Mysterious Treasure. Good ways to discard things. If he can get some more Psychic Recharges going, he could go for an early Black Ray if he wants to, or start trying to go for big Prismatic Bursts.
Yeah, and it looks like... I thought for a second he might have played a Tate and Liza only drawing the 5, but no, he just forgot to draw his 6th card. There it is in his hand now. He's going to play the Mysterious Treasure, discarding the Psychic Energy, or maybe he's going to go for an Acrobike first.
Acrobike's first energy card is always what you want to see. Bingo.
Fantastic. So there's now 2 Psychic Energy in the discard ready to be recharged back to the Necrozma, and that will be enough to pick up the KO on the Blacephalon GX.
Here he goes. Double Psychic Recharge. That Necrozma GX looking ready to go. One slightly awkward thing is that his Shrine of Punishment is now going to be damaging his own guys, and it also puts Henrique into B-string range, so a little bit risky knockout, but to keep up, that's what he's got to do here.
Yeah, absolutely does, and he picks up the Tapu Lele from his prizes as well, so we'll be able to make use of that later on if he decides to do a few more spreads, and just really finish off the game that way with just a magical swap, as we've seen so many times already. But like you said, now Henrique does have access to B-strings, so depending on how many he's able to find and whether he's able to get another Blacephalon down, this could be a really phenomenal turn from Henrique.
Henrique, with that one-card hand, the Cynthia, he was able to draw for turn and energy, attaching it to his Naganadel as well as a charging up. That can do a good chunk to a Necrozma GX as well, thanks to weakness.
That's actually going to KO it, because 80 is going to double to 160, and then the Shrine of Punishment damage is going to KO it.
That's what we said. It was a risk to put that Necrozma GX into the active position. Henrique immediately identifying it and getting himself a fresh hand here at the same time. Not any B-strings just yet, but if he gets any, that's going to put him in great shape.
Yeah, no Blacephalon either, and we do see that, he has the Heat Factory Prism Star in his hand, but of course he's not going to play that because he knows that he can just take the KO.
2 more prize cards for Henrique, and again, he's looking exactly at what card he wants. He's going to get himself back a Blacephalon that he knew that was in the prizes, as well as a Cynthia.
Yeah, so he'll be able to set himself up very nicely for next turn. And in spite of Pedro having the better start here at the beginning of the game, you've got to think to yourself that Henrique has played it exactly perfectly to swing the tide back into his favor.
He's in a phenomenal spot now. He's got himself into, again, the turning point of the game. As we said, he's at the 3 prize cards. So this Naganadel, if not answered this turn, could be doing even more damage. And once again, there's a Naganadel on his bench that could also just instantly respond on the Giratina. He's racing through prizes all over again.
Yeah, he's playing this absolutely phenomenally. And I think this proves sort of how he was able to, do so well. Oh,
big from him. We're going to see Pedro use that Shadow Impact in addition to Shrine of Punishment to start taking prizes of his own as he's continuing to race here.
Yeah, this is a really back and forth game at this point, but Henrique showing how he was able to beat Malamar before, in spite of it being, perhaps not the best, most favorable matchup in the world. Just the power of the Blacephalon combined with Naganadel can really just overwhelm any matchup it comes up against.
And Pedro identifying that because it is the turning point turn for Henrique, that he's going to put the 4 damage counters on his Giratina anyway, as it is not that useful. Henrique, interestingly enough, is going to commit a GX to the board here, as well as putting in that stadium, the Heat Factory, because Pedro's just down to 2 prize cards, and this is a bit of a risk from Henrique here.
Yeah, it is potentially. There's a Guzma from the Acrobike as well. A lot of fire energy in Henrique's hand, but with the Blacephalon going down, there is an opening for Pedro to take the win if he's able to do enough damage in one turn.
There's always that threat when there are 3 Malamars on the board, and we're seeing 3 Psych Energy instantly hit the discard pile as Henrique goes down to 2 prizes of his own. If Pedro can find a way to get maybe something like a Rescue Stretcher or re-access a big attacker here, he could deal with the Blacephalon in his ideal state and actually win this turn.
Yeah, there's a Distortion Door. Giratina coming back to the bench, and Pedro putting 1 damage on each of the Naganadel on the bench and the Blacephalon. There goes a Spell Tag onto the Giratina, as well as 3 Psychic Energy, so another Shadow Impact is coming. I don't think Henrique can take 2 prizes before Pedro could seals out this game.
Ooh, wow, it's a big Guzma.
Wow.
Again, targeting down this Blacephalon. Again, Shadow Impact doing 130 damage to this Blacephalon, putting it in range. And this is going to be a huge attack here. I think Pedro's got himself into a fantastic spot.
Yeah, and this is going to be the point where Henrique needs to find a Guzma. If he KOs this Giratina, the game ends instantly. 4 damage counters go to the Blacephalon, and then we're going into game 3, so he cannot KO this Giratina.
The good news is that he does have a Guzma in his hand, so he's not just going to be in that really awkward spot of having to, pay retreat and do something else. So Henrique going to keep the pressure on, using that Guzma, keeping that Blacephalon a little bit safer, whilst also getting rid of a free retreating Tapu Koko, getting around that spell tag once again. Henrique down just to 1 prize now, and it's it's a Guzma pickup. This is pretty big. Is he going to be able to finish off this? Oh, wow, we're going to see it. The Guzma, and he can just simply use the 1 energy attack or just retreat. Yeah. He had plenty of options to finish off that Blacephalon. Pedro, fantastic play there.
Yeah, he had it guaranteed regardless, I think, because he had the Tapu Lele in his
swap. He could do he could do all sorts.
Yeah, exactly. He had so many win conditions there, just using one of them to take the win, and we are tied at 1 game apiece.
That's really exciting stuff. We saw great play from both players there. Henrique trying to be as aggressive as possible, using his opponent's Shrine of Punishment against him to take 2 big prizes with a Naganadel, and trying to have as many non-GXs on the board as possible. But it was that benching of the 1 Blacephalon. As soon as his B-strings were offline, it did seem to be a bit of a risk, and Pedro capitalized on that straight away.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where he wanted to bench it to have it in case he needed it to take a knockout, but because that left a 2-prize liability on the board, Pedro was able to capitalize on that to just take the win.
And we again see the power of that Giratina coming straight back onto the board once again, just always available. Once you've got your Malamars in play, the deck just sort of pilots itself. It just says, oh, that thing that you just destroyed, I can get all 4 of those components back and start putting it back into the active and swinging all over again.
Yeah, time and time again, we see some of the best Pokemon decks are these ones where it seems that no matter how many of their threats that you go through, there's just more coming. And with Giratina, your opponent can never run out of Giratina unless you somehow stop them using abilities, because if it's in a discard pile, it can just always keep coming back. And each time it does, it actually does more damage to you.
This is going to be a thrilling conclusion to the junior finals here. Both players demonstrating why they have made it this far through the tournament. Both their decks running smoothly now. We've had one awkward game where Pedro let loose himself into a bad start, but this game where he was able to set up much more efficiently, he was able to get the job done. Henrique strutting his stuff as well, doing that stylish eye-opener play, and then going for a burst GX and also taking his prizes later down the line, making sure he had plenty of supporters throughout the game. Both players at the top here doing so well.
Yeah, and both players very sporting as well. We just see there just a little bit of shot of the players. They were smiling at each other, they were having a good time, and that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. Even at the highest level of competitors play, good sportsmanship is something that's always really important to have, and it's great to see from really some role model players here on the final table.
Yeah, definitely showing their maturity despite their age. A couple Inkays leading off here for Pedro. It didn't look like he only had any supporter cards, just a lot of energy cards, so that's got to be a concern for him.
And then looking at the prize cards, again, nothing too bad right now, unless these last 2 are horrendous. And 2 Lilies is... no, actually, that's fine, because he plays 4, doesn't he? He plays 4.
He's playing a lot of them.
Yeah.
So you can see
it's absolutely
Henrique's now. No energy to speak of here. That's not too hot for him. He's never going to get the full value of a Burst GX.
Yeah, no, indeed not. But other than that, again, his prize is pretty fine. So... here we go, Game 3. This is the deciding game for the junior finals here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And Henrique will be going first, starting straight away with a Heat Factory discard.
Heat Factory getting himself into a Tapu Lele. Now he has the choice of any supporter that he wants to this turn. So already with 2 Poipoles in play, it's already looking really strong for him.
It is, and with that Mysterious Treasure, he could get a 3rd out as well. And then with the Ultra Board, get out Blacephalon and just use the Tapu Lele to grab a Symphony and keep going.
Looks really strong stuff from him here. He's eyeing up what to discard. Always going through the motions, making sure that you're making the right discards, as he has a couple of things to do all at once this turn.
Yeah, just making sure that he's discarding the right stuff. The choice band there in his hand, interestingly, sort of deciding whether he wants to keep it or not, but again decides that it's a pretty easy discard.
Yeah, it's one of those things, because he saw how Pedro played that second game, choosing to put the Necrozma GX in play. Maybe it's tempting to hold on to it just in case he can get another sneaky Naganadel knockout. So you can see why there's the debate, but he is eventually going to decide on that as the discard, as he's going to grab himself a Blacephalon GX as well as a Wonder Tag here, and he can start refreshing his hand either with Cynthia, Sightseer, or that Lily that he does play.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'll be going for Sightseer here, given that he doesn't really have any Fire Engine in his hand. Lily. does seem like the one is there.
It is there. It's in the deck. So he's going to be able to draw himself up to a large hand size here. He does still have a Mysterious Treasure if he wants to play it, but he might be holding it for some discards of Fire Energies if he draws into them with this Lily.
Yep. So there we go. Lily going to be played, going to find himself 5 cards. He can Mysterious Treasure first if he wants to, but he's not 100% sure whether he wants to do that or not. He already has 2 Poipole in play, so maybe getting a 3rd one out now isn't necessarily the most important thing, and he does just play the Lily.
Yeah, I like this decision. He's got the Heat Factory Prism Star in play, so he's put 1 fire in the discard, but if he draws into any more, that's going to be what he wants to use with those Mysterious Treasures, and if he just wants to get 2 Naganadels out next turn, he can just save those Mysterious Treasures. We do see the Acrobike. There was a Fire Energy as one of those targets, but he's not got any in his hand.
Yeah, so actually it's one of those things where you think normally instantly, oh yeah, well, Fire Energy, I'm going to discard that, but he wants to attach one this turn, so yeah, it's going to have to be the Ultra Ball that goes.
A little bit awkward for him. He might need to keep that Fire Energy as well. He might not even have the luxury of attaching this turn. He might need it for next turn's Heat Factory Prism Star Stadium to get him out of this awkward start. The Lily looked so promising, and it's just got him into the awkward pieces for now.
Wow, yeah, no draw supporters of any kind, and actually just opts to Mysterious Treasure it away.
He's going to continue to get rid of it, get himself another Poipole, sort of setting his stall out that he wants to get as many charging ups as possible, and foregoing a turn attachment here.
He does play a second Tapu Lily GX. Could be thinking maybe I'm just committed to getting it with the Ultra Ball next turn. I believe he just does have an Ultra Ball in his hand.
Yeah, there's a second Mysterious Treasure at the very least. So that could be what he has to go for, as he's just going to simply pass it over to Pedro here. No manual attachment is really awkward for him.
Yeah, that means that will be no Mind Blown next turn. And
oh, boy.
Oh, wow, look at this. Oh, wait, no, there's nothing else in his hand.
No, that's it. He's had to just go for a Hypnosis here. Double Spell Tag on his Inkays. Not much else going for him here. Hypnosis. Henrique has to flip to see if he's awake here.
Asleep is to the left. And that's
he does stay asleep, but he can always just evolve out of this sleep. This has got to be heartbreaking for Pedro.
It has, and there's a Fire Energy as well, so really the ideal draw for Henrique. Evolving into the Naganadel and deciding to not evolve the active one. Maybe... Oh, he's got Mysterious Treasure, so he can get another one.
Yeah, he's going to Mysterious Treasure away. That Kiawe not come into play in any of these games so far, as we see him searching out one of those Naganadels, putting them to the top. He's also looking at another one here. He might replace his own stadium with an Ultra Space to get all 3 into play. Yeah,
that would make a lot of sense. That'd be really great for him. We have access to 3 charging ups per turn. It's going to work out pretty well for you.
You are going to see the Mysterious Treasure here. Yeah, there goes the Ultra Space, although Heat Factory is fantastic for him. No energy in the hand, so he's just going to keep searching through his deck and getting the Ganadels into play.
And of course, this does deck pin as well, so it means that he's even more likely to draw into something else to get him out of this drawless hand.
You're going to see him get that 3rd Naganadel, so he's pretty much all in. He had that option to find himself a Tapu Lele. Does he still have the Mysterious Treasure in his hand? No, that was with one. That was one of his 3 Naganadel searches.
Yeah, exactly.
So he might be just relying on a Burst GX, getting him out of a bad hand here, and to see if he can get himself any more energy cards, taking 1 prize away from the offset.
Yeah, his hand is currently a Guzma and a Blacephalon.
Both players really working with not much right now, trying to make the most of whatever they can do here.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, opts to play the Guzma instead of just charging up to the active and then retreating, and doesn't even opt to do charging up at all, just goes straight for the Burst GX.
Yeah, Burst GX, 1 prize. It's not a Fire Energy, as we know, 0 valid targets.
Yep.
So it does pass over to Pedro.
What does Pedro draw for turn? It looks like... Is that a Malamar?
Yeah, it's just a Malamar.
Yikes.
Second energy to his benched Inkay now. He might be thinking about trying to attack with this Malamar, seeing as though he has so few options. Instead, he's going to try and once again use Hypnosis. Much better idea now that it's a basic Pokemon in the active.
Yeah, there's going to be no way to evolve Heal out of that.
Oh, it's a big flip. That's really huge for him.
And the crowd likes that.
We've seen some big Hypnosis flips on stream before at the NAIC. And once again, Hypnosis coming in clutch when you're in these bad situations.
Yep, so Henrique sitting on a hand of Blacephalon Fire Energy and debating whether to play the Blacephalon down. He does, and just going to attach to the active, and that is it. No cards in hand for Henrique, and just a pass.
Could have used the Ultra Space to try and thin an extra Ultra Beast if there were any more in his deck. He is going to wake up here, but it's back over. Oh, it's huge! He's in the game, we see. He evolves into a Malamar. Cynthia's going to get him rolling here. Pedro's got out of this really awkward start, and that Hypnosis Flip looking huge now.
Pedro rips the Cynthia off the top of the deck and is now right back into this game and in a really good position to capitalize on Henrique's 0-card hand.
Yeah, now it seems that Henrique's on that clock of not doing much. And we're going to see what he can get from these 6 cards. Is he going to get into any attackers? Already a Tapu Koko being shown there.
He does have
Treasure as well.
And an Onyx, so yeah, probably going to Mysterious Treasure away the Onyx and grab maybe a Giratina or even a Tapu Lele for next turn, so just to make sure they doesn't end up with nothing to draw again.
Yeah, that would be the nightmare situation. We are going to see the Mysterious Treasure come down here. And Pedro's so ecstatic that he's got himself out of this bad hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, he just lost the Marshadow.
This is a really interesting call. I think Henrique doesn't have any cards in his hand at the moment, does he?
The last card, he had a hand of Blacephalon and Fire Energy, and he played them both.
Oh boy, he's he's believing in the Let Loose all over again. He's going to bench himself that Tapu Koko. He can pay retreat out of the Inkay first and promote Tapu Koko, hoping to draw into one of his double colorless energies. Or he can just evolve straight away.
Oh, I think he just realized his mistake. I don't think he meant to do that.
Still holding on to the card.
Yeah. I think Henrique is going to let him take that back.
He's just going to let loose straight away, not evolving at all here. Instead, keeping that option to use the Hypnosis if he needs to, and in the case of missing a double colorless energy.
Yeah, wow. And was there another judge decision going on there? I think, they're just cleaning up the board, maybe. Yeah, just making sure that everything is sort of nice and organized so that it's more clear what's out.
Yep, we are seeing the let loose once again from Pedro. Really interesting decision. Henrique was at a 0-card hand, and now he's going to get the benefit of having 5 to start off this turn.
Yeah, of course, drawing 4 off the let loose and then drawing for turn 5. That's 5 more than would have, or 4 more than would have had otherwise. And yeah, the judges there just having a quick little discussion. Resident AJ Schumacher there, present as ever, with the former commentator at the last American Internationals. Always great to see him on stream. Lovely guy.
And the judges, as always, trying to be clear, concise, and making sure both players know exactly what's happened here, what their concern is, and now we can continue play the let loose. If he can get into something like a double colorless energy or any other attackers, that's going to be what Pedro's looking for here.
Yeah, but if you're Henrique, you've got to be breathing a sigh of relief at this point, thinking that I had absolutely nothing, and now look at that, he's drawn a hand of Psychic Energy, Poipole Fire Energy.
Wow, that's amazing for him.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing for him.
He does find himself a Psychic Energy, and I believe there's at least one Psychic in the discard pile as well for a Psychic recharge if he wants to attack with Tapu Koko. But once again, believing in the Hypnosis to buy him some more time here.
But Henrique gets the heads this time.
Henrique wakes up. You can see how much it means for him. He's doing a little fist bump here. Now with 5 cards in hand to play with. And man, he's going to start motoring through this turn again. All the charging ups coming down. A manual attachment to the benched Blacephalon. There is always the concern that there are spell tags slowly ticking through. So it's not without its punishment to take a prize here. But we are going to see a slight pause just while he decides what he wants to take here. Yeah, he might even be going for a bursting burn here.
I mean, yeah, again, it does make sense. You really don't want to take those 4 damage counters from spell tag, and that's going to be tails on burn as well. So actually, that burn's going to stay.
Burn sticks. There'll be one more huge flip. It could be a great way around spell tag.
Double colorless goes onto the Tapu Koko. He does have the Malamar in his hand, so he can evolve or retreat to heal out of this burn and confusion. He's also going to put down the Tapu Lele GX and just go for that Wonder tag.
Yep, he once again is having to put down GX Pokemon. He would prefer not to in most situations, but here he's identifying that he needs to simply refresh his hand here. Once again, have the option to retreat the Inkay and evolve the Malamar before using the Cynthia. Instead, having that option for Hypnosis throughout the game is what he's valuing. Yeah, it's sort of realizing that there's really nothing going for him with the hand he was sat on there and there. So Cynthia being played, going to draw 6, finds himself a Guzma Rescue Stretcher, finds himself a Giratina. That'll be really glad to pick that up. A Psychic Energy as well. And this final card is going to end up being another Giratina. Got both of them. Those are the attackers that he's going to want to eventually find, so it's no bad thing to get it. He's going to pay retreat out of his Inkay now. Yep. Starting to use that flying flip attack. There are 3 GX Pokemon on Henrique's side of the field, so this is going to be really integral as he is now going to evolve up into a Malamar. He could start Psychic Recharging and getting Giratinas rolling if he wants to.
Yeah, it was a really, really great turn from Pedro there, just being able to go into the Tapu Koko and start doing Flying Flip. Now that Henrique is at a board state where the Flying Flip is a lot more impactful, he can start doing what this archetype is really meant to do and start spreading damage around to build up to a huge finish.
We're just seeing Pedro mulling over if he wants to put a Giratina on this board and use a Psychic Recharge. Not this turn. He's just going to commit to a Flying Flip. As we mentioned, Henrique has already been trying to play around those spell tags, evidently, by not taking a knockout last turn. And it just proves the power of that spell tag.
Yeah,
those 4 counters in the right position can be just so awkward.
Yeah, a lot of these great cards sort of present these catch-22 situations to the opponent where you think, I don't want to KO this thing with the spell tag because I'm going to take 4 damage, but at the same time, if I don't, then he's just going to do Psychic Recharges, and it's like you can't win no matter which way you look at it.
But, however, this turn, there's no spell tag, as it's a Tapu Koko in the active position, so there's no headache for Henrique this turn. He's simply going to attach to his benched Blacephalon all over again, play himself a Cynthia, and we're going to start seeing some Mind Blowns at the end of this turn.
We certainly are, and that's going to work out well for Henrique. Let's see what he sees off this Cynthia. Beast Energy could be pretty good, because that would mean that he needs to Lost Zone 1 less energy to do the attack, although has he already attached manually this turn?
I believe he attached to his benched Blacephalon this turn.
Okay, so he will have to Lost Zone 3 energy to get the KO with Mind Blown on the Tapu Koko. Not the end of the world when he plays many energy as the Blacephalon deck does, but still could be a bit better.
Yeah, so 3 energy being committed to the Lost Zone for this Mind Blown attack. And Pedro not committing a Psychic Recharge last turn to any of his board means that he's actually in this awkward position now of almost having to find an extra energy card to move a new active Pokemon, and that's going to be awkward for him. A big Ultra Ball pickup could be nice, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could put 2 Giratinas into the discard pile if he wants to.
Wow, that was do a double Distortion Door this turn. I'm pretty sure that's you're going to be happy about that. Is that what he's going to do? It looks like it.
I feel like they are freebies.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
Maybe it'd be interesting to see what he finds off of it, though. There's not really anything else he wants. Oh, he's debating whether he wants to get the Psychic Engine and discard pile.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 Malamars available, but he has no draw power regardless, so just having the manual attachment would be the same as using both Psychic Recharges. The only difference being that you could attach to your active rather than just to 2 bench targets, but there's not much going for him here.
No, there really isn't, so
he could, I guess he could double Psychic Recharge and do a Shadow Punch with a Marshadow, or even double Psychic Recharge to his benched Malamar and get an attack in. Instead, he's going to go for the Rescue Stretcher, pull back that Tapu Koko, commit the attachment, recharge to it. He does have a Guzma, so maybe trying to pull something up here and get more Flying Flip value.
Yeah, and now, additionally, going to go for the Ultra Ball on the 2 Giratinas. He's really agonizing over it, though.
He might want to be in one of those situations where he lets his opponent know that he has no cards in his hand. He doesn't really want to let Henrique know how weak he really is and keep that hidden if he's not going to be using the Giratinas anyway this turn. Just holding, some cards means that Henrique has to play around other things rather than just a top deck.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, well, Henrique was in that exact situation where he was forced to play his entire hand, and that didn't work out amazingly for him. There is the Guzma going to bring up the Tapu Lele on Henrique's bench. Pedro brings up his Tapu Koko, and we're going to see yet another Flying Flip.
And yeah, he's just going to end his turn here. Flying Flip, putting, again, most importantly, the GX Pokemon in range of Shadow Impacts from now on. And both of his Malamars protected somewhat with spell tags is also an important thing to note here.
Yeah, we could also see, like we mentioned in the last game, the potential Black Ray opening here. 1 Black Ray plus 1 Magical Swap at this point would seal the game for Pedro. There'd definitely be enough damage on the field.
I think I've just seen Henrique. He's got himself a Guzma in his hand. He could once again try and target down that GX Pokemon on Pedro's side of the field and go for a large Mind Blown, depending on how many Fire Energies are still in his discard pile, because he did commit a lot to that last knockout on Tapu Koko.
He certainly did. He could get the KO no matter what, especially if he commits that Beast Energy. He would only need to Lost Zone 3 energy to KO the Tapu Lele. But it's just a matter of whether he wants to do that or not. I think he's seriously debating it.
The only concern for him is he doesn't always have the guarantee of a Beast Ring working. As you said, one of the win conditions for Pedro could simply be spreading for the whole game and going for a Black Ray to win all at once.
Yeah.
So if Henrique does commit, 3 energies to this Mind Blown, which looks like he's doing, it's not without its consequences. He's going to look to try and find a lot of Fire Energy next turn so that he can reload.
Yeah, so there it is. Mind Blown, KOs the Tapu Lele. 2 more prizes from Henrique. 2 prizes away from winning the Latin American International Championships.
It's just an in-K draw.
Oh, wow.
This is really rough for Pedro. He's once again in the spot where he can't do much but flying flip here.
Yeah. I guess another thing, again, by Henrique doing this, he has played around a little bit, the Psychic Energy being in the discard pile. I'm not quite sure how many Pedro has access to, but given that he committed 2 to the Tapu Koko, I can only imagine that, this is going to be a bit tricky for him. And, he just goes for the Tapu Lele promo. Yeah,
he's going for the Tapu Lele potential magical swaps down the line. I don't think there's enough Psychic Energy in his discard pile to use it this turn. But it's definitely something you can keep an eye out for. If Henrique is going to allow Pedro to continue to flying flip, it's going to be something that could eventually become a really useful tool for him here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we thought, the Guzma playing around the Psychic Energy in the discard pile really nicely. No Psychic Energy in Pedro's discard pile for him to Psychic Recharge.
Just those Distortion Door Giratinas if he wants to commit them to his board. There's going to be one of them coming onto the board. Ooh, it's going to be both.
Oh, wow.
4 damage counters being put onto the board here just from abilities alone.
Yeah. I think he's happy to commit both in the sense that Henrique needs to take 2 knockouts to win the game, so there will always be at least one bench slot available later on for a Tapu Lele promo to be benched.
Absolutely. So here is the flying flip. It means that the Tapu Lele and the Blacephalon, both in the back, are in range of a Black Ray GX attack. The active Blacephalon not quite there, but Pedro's dangerously close. With one good draw, he could actually win the game next turn.
Yeah, it's definitely favoured to Henrique right now, but Pedro could just, like I said, out of nowhere, just steal a win, which as these Malamar variants can often do. There's an Acro Bike for what looks to be a Fire Energy and a Rescue Stretcher. He's got to be happy to see that, and there's the Fire Energy actually goes to his hand just so he has one to commit to the active.
Yeah, he still is holding, I think, an Ultra Ball if he wants to change his mind and gets them back into the discard pile. He also has Sightseeing. He has plenty of outs if he needs to discard that card.
Yeah.
But the Rescue Stretcher doing him no good regardless.
Yeah. And actually, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the game, I said, the Malamar variant doesn't really have the same capability of playing around B-String like the Decidueye deck does. It actually does, in a sense, because it can just, take this route of taking 6 prizes in one turn. It's just a lot more dodgy until you get there.
Yeah, that's true, because one of the great things about taking prize cards in the Pokemon trading card game is it's extra draws.
Yes,
essentially.
exactly.
So you're having to forego drawing cards just to try and make this end game strategy work. And at the moment, Pedro could really use a few more cards in his hand.
Yeah, he absolutely could. And it might be that he's forced to a magical swap just to take a few prizes, just to take 4 at least. So he has more cards to work with, but does still play around the B-String.
Henrique really going to try and look to find some discardables off of this Cynthia. He needs to find Fire Energies and ways to discard them because he could get the knockout on this Tapu Koko by just discarding all of his energies, but that comes with great risk.
It really does. There is... Oh, he's got an Ultra Ball and a Fire...
Oh, wow, it's huge!
That could not have asked for a better draw if he tried. Ultra Ball plus 2 Fire Energies. He can discard those both, get whatever, and then charging up and take the knockout on the Tapu Koko.
That is phenomenal from Henrique. Exactly what he's looking for. This is why you see 17 energy cards in this deck list. It's for these moments. He's also eyeing up a Tapu Lele. The most important thing for him is to get the Fire Energy into the discard pile, but he gets the added benefit if he wants to draw into the Tapu Lele. He opted to not do that, but really it's just so that he can use these charging up so that he can Mind Blown much more efficiently. Yeah,
that is absolutely fantastic no matter which way you look at it. There is going to be a KO this turn after the 2 charging ups, and then Henrique is going to only be 1 prize card away from winning the Latin American Internationals.
We need to start doing some counting because we know there is a magical swap potential somewhere.
Whoa.
He's just discarded 3 energy cards. Oh, sorry, Lost Zone 3 energy cards here.
He did not need to do that.
Mind Blown.
The Beast Energy, of course, enabling the extra 30 damage. He did not need to do that to KO the Tapu Koko, just perhaps in the excitement, a little bit of a misstep. But that concession?
It looks like it. Just another draw of a basic Pokemon for Pedro, so he's not able to do anything else this turn. It does not matter. Henrique is the juniors winner here for the Latin American International Championships for the 2018-19 season.
Huge congratulations to Henrique, the underdog potentially in this matchup, managing to attain the title of international champion here in Latin America. Commiserations to Pedro, of course, but I'm sure adding a second at internationals to an already impressive resume, he's not going to be too upset about that.
What a fascinating